Hello and welcome to this week's edition of the Glasgow Times News Podcast, normally recorded in our studio at the Bishopbriggs Media Centre, currently recorded from our volunteers' homes. To keep in touch with us, use our social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram and Twitter, which are all at Q and Review. That's CUEANDREVIEW. Or get in touch via information@qandreview.com. That's information@CUEANDREVIEW.com. Please like and share our podcast and give us any constructive feedback.
The Glasgow Times on Thursday the 1st of December 2022. Co-op members raise more than 45k for local charities across Glasgow. An article written by Morgan Carmichael and read by me, Corey. Glasgow charities have raised a hefty £45,000 thanks to co-op members. 30 charities across the city centre, West End and South Side have received a total of £45,328.87 from co-op members swiping their membership cards at store tills. The swipe produced a 2p donation to community funds for every £1 spent on co-op products. Now the grand sum has been split amongst groups across the city. A total of £3,927.65 was raised for charities in the Ibrox and Govan area, which included the 34th Glasgow Girls Brigade and Ibrox Primary School. A total of £5,260.98 was raised for the Arch Resettlement Centre, Whipennew Health and Wellbeing, and Church House Bridgeton in the Gorbals and Bridgeton area. Friends of Castlemilk Park, Friends of Kings Park, and Glencroft Community Hall were granted a total of £6,241.27. while £5,791.99 was given to Clowns in the Sky at Glasgow's Royal Hospital for Children, Our Lady of the Rosary Primary School and G53 together. The battlefield in Shawlands area received £8,020, while city centre charities such as Shelter Scotland and Action for Children received £6,010.50. West End charities received the most, with a grand total of £10,076.48 being donated to the likes of Men Matter Scotland, NW Food Bank and Buddies Glasgow. Various celebration events were held across the city in early November, with each co-op community celebrating with the chosen local cause. That article is from the Glasgow Times. It was written by Morgan Carmichael and it was read by me, Corey. The Glasgow Times on Thursday the 1st of December 2022. Jackie Abbott pulls out of Glasgow Hydro show due to illness. This article was written by Rebecca Newlands and was read by me, Corey. Singer Jackie Abbott has pulled out of her upcoming Glasgow show with Paul Heaton. The Beautiful South duo were set to perform at the Hydro on Friday, December 2nd, with special guest Billy Bragg. Now, due to illness, Jackie will not appear at the gig. Paul made the announcement on social media that Jackie would be unable to perform at any of the planned events for the weekend, but assured fans that he and the band will be putting on a great show. Refunds are available at the point of purchase for anyone who would like one. A statement said, "We're really sorry to say that following doctors' medical advice, Jackie will sadly be unable to perform at the Bridgelington, Glasgow and Stockton shows this weekend. We look forward to Jackie rejoining the tour soon, and we will keep you up to date with her progress. In the meantime, Paul and the band look forward to putting on a great show for you all tonight and at all the shows this weekend. If you would prefer not to attend the Bridgelington, Glasgow and Stockton shows, you will be able to claim a refund from your point of purchase before the show takes place. That article is from the Glasgow Times. It was written by Rebecca Newlands and was read by me, Corey. The Glasgow Times on Thursday the 1st of December 2022. Pioneering pony ride helps 103-year-old woman fulfill her dream. An article written by Emma Sabeljak and read by me, Corey. It was to cheers of care home staff that Pearl Todd embarked on a unique journey which has been over a year in the making. The 103-year-old, who had to sell her horse before coming to Ranfurly Care Home in Johnson, wished for one more horse ride. An employee at the care home, Karen Dove, was adamant to ensure that happened. But a year of searching for an option accessible to Miss Todd came up short. The solution came when she spotted Simon Mulholland's wheelchair-accessible vehicle, headed by a pony named Obama. Speaking of Miss Todd's request, Miss Dove said, "Her last wish was to ride a horse again, and we knew that couldn't happen, so we tried everything else. We tried carriages, but she uses a hoist, and said the hoist might spook the horse. We thought we had lost it, but then this pony came through Barhead, and I thought, there it is. There's the answer to my prayers. It was like a dream come true." While she had to endure the November chill, Miss Todd was able to explore the hilly park which would have been inaccessible to her in a wheelchair. The former midwife from Kilmalcolm had owned a horse previously and wanted to reconnect with the animal. "I had to sell it. It takes a lot of money to stay here," Miss Todd quipped. Miss Todd's two sons travel up from England each month to see her, but this was the first outing she had been able to take in 3 years. "It was lovely," she said after returning to the care home. "I enjoyed it." However, this would not have been possible without the innovative 3-wheeled pony-drawn vehicle with a space for a wheelchair built by a 67-year-old Simon Mulholland of Pony Axe S. With the help of Obama at the helm of the vehicle, Mr. Mulholland has made Scotland's beaches and outdoor terrains accessible to people with disabilities. "I cannot imagine not going out to a place like this," Mr. Mulholland said. "For me, it's about being away from the roads. I don't want to be on a tarmac path or on a blocked off bit that is for the disabled. I want to be in the countryside," he said as he explained the motivation behind Pony Axe S. Gesturing to the slopes of Thomas Shank Park and the remaining autumnal foliage, he added, "It's about making places like this accessible, making the countryside accessible. It looks like I'm the only person in Scotland doing it." The innovative vehicle has helped people across Scotland access its beautiful beaches and countryside, with Obama working from Berwick-upon-Tweed to Dornoch. He has provided trips for people who travelled from Australia and Canada just to be able to visit a beach with their wheelchair. Mr. Mulholland said, "There's a huge demand for it. The tour's potential is enormous. Moving to Paisley from England has been key to the success of what he does, as Scotland has been far more welcoming to his initiative. In England, everyone is finding excuses why it won't happen. In Scotland, everyone is finding reasons why it will happen. We're not being told to go away. We're not being told we can't do it. That's what matters. I just want to expand it with more ponies taking more people, because it shouldn't just be one pony." He emphasised that safety of those in the vehicle has been crucial for the whole idea, and has managed to create an automated system which releases vehicles from the pony. "I can't stop the pony from doing something stupid. Nobody can. He can be as stupid as he likes, but Pearl would be okay," the 67-year-old said about the safety system. Obama, who is 19 years old, was rescued by Mr. Mulholland in 2009 and has fully embraced the role that has seen him recognised across Scotland. Isabel Mulholland, 18, explains, "We have 2 other ponies that we tried to replace him with. We wanted to let him retire. He wasn't having any of that. Ponies don't need tweed jackets and things. They just need love and attention. If he walks around, he will always get that love and attention." Miss Mulholland helps her father with the trips whenever she is free from other obligations. "I nearly start crying every time. It's amazing." The 18-year-old added, "Even when it's a long day walking, which it is, you get to hear things and you get to see things that you wouldn't see on normal days. It's amazing to see everything Obama does." That article is from the Glasgow Times. It was written by Emma Sablejack and was read by me, Corey. The Glasgow Times, on Thursday, the 1st of December 2022. Silverburn brings Christmas joy with professional elves. An article written by Rebecca Newlands and read by me, Corey. Glasgow shoppers can enjoy an extra bit of Christmas cheer this festive season at Silverburn. The Pollock Shopping Centre is making sure no one will be feeling like a Grinch with professional joy spreaders ahead of what is sure to be a challenging winter for many. The festive cheer squad, made up of 5 specialist elves, will be roaming the mall this weekend to entertain visitors with jokes, sweet treats and singing and dancing. General Manager David Pierotti said, "At Silverburn, it's our job to give people a reason to be cheerful, and with this year being more challenging than most, we thought we would bring in some professional joy spreaders to boost visitors' spirits." This festive season should be about making memories with friends and family, enjoying time together no matter the activity, whether it's shopping, going to the cinema, or simply grabbing a bite to eat or a coffee. Our festive cheer squad has been hired to add a little something extra to these experiences, giving people another reason to smile. That article is from the Glasgow Times. It was written by Rebecca Newlands and it was read by me, Corey. The Glasgow Times, on Thursday the 1st of December 2022. SNP's Ian Blackford has announced he is quitting leadership role. An article written by Stuart Patterson and read by me, Corey. SNP Westminster leader Ian Blackford has announced he's stepping down from his role. The MP would have been up for re-election to the post at the SNP MP Group's AGM next week. He has said after 5 years he is making way for fresh leadership. Blackford said, "I have today informed SNP MPs that I will not be re-standing as leader of the Westminster Parliamentary Group at our AGM next week. After more than 5 years in the role, now is the right time for fresh leadership at Westminster as we head towards a general election and the next steps in winning Scotland's independence." Blackford took over from Angus Robertson when he lost his seat in the 2017 election. He added, "During my time as leader, the SNP won a landslide victory in the 2019 general election, with an increased share of vote and MPs, and support for independence has continued to grow, with polling this week showing a majority in favour. While I am stepping down as Westminster leader, I will continue in my role as the MP for Ross, Skye and Loch Aber. And I have also accepted a role at the centre of the SNP's independence campaign, leading on business engagement." He said whoever succeeds him will have his full support. He added, "I would like to thank our MPs and staff for all their support over the past 5 years. Whoever replaces me as Westminster leader will have my full support, as, together, we stand up for Scotland's interests and democratic right to choose their future in an independence referendum." Nicola Sturgeon, First Minister, praised Blackford's diligence and loyalty. She said, "I would like to pay tribute to Ian Blackford for his 5 years as leader of the SNP's Westminster Group. He led the group at a time of huge electoral success for the SNP, particularly at the 2019 general election, and has done an outstanding job in holding the Tory government to account and in promoting the case for independence. I would like to place on record my thanks for Ian's diligence, tenacity, friendship and loyalty in his time as group leader. He will continue to play an important role as constituency MP for Ross, Skye and Loch Aber, and I have also asked him to take on a role as part of the wider SNP team preparing for the case for independence. I look forward to working with Ian's successor as group leader at Westminster, as we continue to make the case for the people of Scotland to have a democratic choice on the country's future. That article is from the Glasgow Times. It was written by Stuart Patterson and was read by me, Corey.
From the Glasgow Times, Friday the 2nd of December 2022, from the news section, dealer caught with drugs in vehicle in Rutherglen, by Lauren Brownlee. An alleged dealer was reportedly found with drugs in his vehicle in Rutherglen. Cops arrested a 31-year-old woman after allegedly finding 56 grams of drugs yesterday. She has been reported to the Procurator Fiscal. Lanarkshire Police said DAVRU officers from East Kilbride arrested a 31-year-old female on December the 1st after 56 grams of controlled drugs were found within a vehicle in the Rutherglen area. A report will be submitted to the Procurator Fiscal. Please report any drug activity to 101. And that was a report by Lauren Brownlee. From the Glasgow Times, Friday the 2nd of December 2022, from the news section, councillors in Glasgow get training in the lock zone to prevent drug deaths. By Stuart Patterson. Councillors in Glasgow are being trained to use naloxone, the overdose reversal drug. It is the latest step in rolling out kits and training to a number of people that would allow them to help someone if they suffer an opioid overdose. Already, more than 5,000 kits have been issued in Glasgow in the last year to people who could be in contact with somebody at risk of overdose, and it is believed that every week the drug is being used to prevent an overdose from being fatal. Declan Blench, SNP councillor for East Centre Ward, was one of them. He said, "I was pretty nervous about the training because I thought it would be something really complicated, but it wasn't. I'm amazed at how safe and effective naloxone is. It's not the solution, but it does reduce deaths and it helps keep people alive so they can access recovery services, and I firmly believe it should be more widespread. I'd love it if people getting ready to leave the house automatically check their pockets to make sure they've got phone, keys, wallet and naloxone when they're heading out. Naloxone has been available for a number of years, but it's been made more widely available in a bid to reduce the record number of drug deaths in the city. Last year, 311 people died in a drug-related death, the highest ever, up from 291 the year before. Steph Kerr, Recovery Project Manager, said, "I have managed a group of naloxone peers since 2014, and they have been trained and supplied naloxone kits to over 2,000 people. I have personally administered naloxone 3 times in the past, and have witnessed the amazing capabilities of this life-saving drug. It has been an absolute pleasure to work with an amazing group of peers, and their dedication and passion is limitless. I was so pleased that a number of Glasgow City councillors were prepared to sign up for the overdose training, and I'm quite proud knowing there is now a group of elected members carrying life-saving naloxone kits." Alan Casey, City Convener for Workforce, Homelessness and Addictions, said, "While treatment is the best route for people, naloxone can keep people alive." He said, "Most people who take drugs don't take them to die, but the risk is there. The more people who are trained in carrying a naloxone kit, the more lives might be saved. Although it is recognised that the involvement in a treatment programme substantially improves someone's chances of avoiding an overdose, having access to naloxone at the time of need can be the difference to life and death." And that report was by Stuart Patterson. From the Glasgow Times, Friday the 2nd of December 2022, from the news section, Glasgow Court, rapist who filmed sex attack on sleeping woman jailed. Report by Grant McCabe. A sex attacker caught after his victim found a video of him raping her has been jailed for 7.5 years. Alan Alexander took advantage of the woman, who had no idea that she had been preyed upon at the time. She was left sickened after then discovering the clip in a computer they both used. Prosecutor Eiley Robertson said she found the footage he had made of him having sex with her. It was dated 2012. She was very shocked when she found the video. It lasted 17 minutes and she is clearly asleep throughout. She had no idea he had done this until she discovered the video years later. There was also a second clip, not dated, which had him appearing to molest the woman and him smiling into the camera before she awoke. Alexander, 37, was today sentenced at the High Court in Glasgow. He previously pleaded guilty to rape and 5 other charges involving the woman between December 2010 and January 2021. The crimes mainly occurred in Ayr and Prestwick, both Ayrshire, as well as Glasgow. The other charges included the woman waking up to find him having sex with her. Ms. Robertson stated, he once made a comment to her that if anyone found out what he was doing, then he would get done for rape. She regularly suffered physical violence, which included him attacking her when she asked for music to be turned down. He also left her hurt on the day she started a new job, and she further needed urgent medical treatment while on holiday abroad. Ms. Robertson stated, he once told her she would wake up one night and he would be at the bottom of her bed with a knife. Drunken Alexander joined the women at an awards ceremony at a hotel in Glasgow in 2019. The advocate deputy said, he was threatening towards her and her colleagues. She ultimately left in tears. In a taxi, he threatened her with violence when they got home. She was scared. He attacked her back at the house, leaving her curled up in pain. Ms. Robertson stated, he went on to a group chat set up by her colleagues and told her, by the way, you F, expletive deleted, won, meaning an award. He then threw the phone across the room. The women bravely reported him to police in 2021. Alexander was, by this time, in HMP Kilmarnock, but refused to leave his cell to speak to officers. The court heard he already had another conviction involving the same woman. As well as the 2 rape crimes, he also admitted assault, filming sexual activity while the woman did not consent, another of leaving her in fear and alarm, as well as engaging in abusive behaviour. Lady Stacey told Alexander, there has been a catalogue of you carrying out very nasty offences against the woman. Your actions have caused harm over a long period of years. You should be embarrassed to appear for charges like this. Alexander will be supervised for a further 3 years in his release and was further hit with an indefinite non-harassment order banning him from contacting the woman. And that report was by Grant McCabe. From the Glasgow Times, Friday the 2nd of December 2022, from the news section, husband jailed for violent assault on wife in East Kilbride home, by James Mulholland, Edinburgh Courts Press Services. A husband who burned his wife with hot tea and choked her until she was unconscious has been jailed. Gary O'Donnell was handed a 3-year sentence on Friday for subjecting his partner Rona to a horrifying assault in September 2021. On Friday, the High Court in Edinburgh heard how he abused Rona after returning to his home in East Kilbride, South Lanarkshire, from work early, claiming he had good news. The 37-year-old lorry driver instead went on to show her messages he had between Rona and her work colleague, who she had reportedly been romantically involved with. During the vicious attack, his wife yelled, "I am going to die." She eventually managed to flee and drove herself injured to hospital. O'Donnell then called police, admitting he had lost the plot after finding his wife had been cheating. The court heard how Rona wanted O'Donnell not to be sent to prison, as she feared it would have a devastating impact on their children. O'Donnell's solicitor advocate Rhonda Anderson said the circumstances surrounding the aftermath of the attack meant her client could undertake community service. But Lord Beckett said the only sentence he could impose on O'Donnell for the assault was custody. Passing sentence, he said, "The complainer speaks well of you. She does not wish to see you in custody. She points to the impact it would have on the children. However, this is a very serious example of domestic abuse. Your children were asleep, and given this, it is of some concern to the court that their presence did not dissuade you from carrying out the assault. The court also notes your mean and sneaky action in throwing a scalding hot drink over the complainer. There's no suitable alternative to a prison sentence. You will go to prison for 3 years from today." The first offender, now of Helensburgh, Argyll and Bute, pleaded guilty to the High Court in Edinburgh last month to assaulting his wife to her severe injury, permanent disfigurement, and to the danger of her life. Sentence was deferred for the court to obtain reports on O'Donnell's background. During earlier proceedings, the court heard how the attack occurred at the couple's then home in East Kilbride on September the 12th, 2021. O'Donnell had been suspicious of his wife of 10 years in the weeks before their crime. Prosecutor Mark Mohammed told the High Court in Glasgow, in the summer of 2021, she became romantically involved with a work colleague. O'Donnell later moved out to stay with his parents, but returned hoping to save his relationship. Mr. Mohammed stated, his wife told him she wanted to end the marriage. He refused to accept this. In the early hours of September the 12th, O'Donnell unexpectedly came back from work. He asked to speak to his wife in the kitchen, and went on to show her his mobile phone. Mr. Mohammed stated she saw messages between herself and her male colleague. He made comments about them, and Ronald O'Donnell then turned to walk away. Raging O'Donnell then hurled a mug of hot black tea over his wife, causing her extreme pain. He managed to pin her to the ground and slapped both hands around her neck to strangle her. Mr. Mohammed stated she could not breathe and her vision began to fade. O'Donnell went to grab her by the hair and smack her repeatedly off. Went on to grab her by the hair and smack her repeatedly off a kitchen unit. He choked her again, leading her to lose consciousness. When she came to, Rona desperately tried to find her phone to get help, stating, "I am going to die." She eventually got her mobile and jumped in her car to the local hospital. O'Donnell dialed 999 and confessed, She split up with me, and then I found out she's been cheating, texting somebody. I came home from work and I attacked her. The court heard Rona needed to go to the specialist burns unit for injuries to her back and neck. She also had a bruising to her head, nose, cheek and collarbone. Rona was able to leave hospital on September the 20th, and luckily her burns had healed. Describing her client's feelings during the assault, Ms. Anderson said, "He felt totally humiliated and hurt by her. He felt dismissed by her and he lost control. He is ashamed to have done so. He takes full responsibility for his actions and expresses full remorse." And that report was by James Mulholland, Edinburgh Court's Press Services. From the Glasgow Times, Friday the 2nd of December 2022, from the news section, killer who mowed down man in Greenock after funeral row, jailed. Report by Grant McCabe. A thug who drove over and killed a man following an early row about a funeral has been jailed for 9 years. Jordan Cunningham, 28, mowed down Adam Anderson in his Audi A4 at a car park in Broomhill Court, Greenock, Inverclyde on January the 2nd, 2022. The killing was sparked after Mr. Anderson's friend Paul Dowds was assaulted by Cunningham and others the previous day. This was after he had not turned up for the funeral of a mutual friend. After the clash in the car park, Mr. Anderson, 22, was tragically crushed to death with Cunningham speeding off and then torching his car. Cunningham was today sentenced at the High Court in Glasgow, having earlier admitted to a charge of culpable homicide. Lady Drummond also ordered he be supervised for a further 3 years on his release. Prosecutor Lorraine Glancy Casey earlier told how there had been an ongoing personal feud between the men and their associates. The original reason was unknown, but the killing is thought to have been triggered by the attack on Paul Dowds. He had turned up on January 1st at the block in Greenock, where Cunningham lived, to visit someone. Ms. Glancy stated, he was asked to enter the flat of Cunningham by him and 2 others. He was challenged as to why he had not attended the funeral of their mutual friend. As he left, Mr. Dowd was then punched and kicked by the group. Mr. Dowd later told his friend Mr. Anderson what happened. The victim said, "They're all dafties, that lot." The court heard Cunningham's Audi later ended up damaged. Cunningham was spotted in his motor at the car park on the afternoon of January the 2nd. Mr. Anderson and a friend were then seen by the witness running full pelt towards Cunningham. Mr. Anderson was described as being on a collision course with the Audi. Cunningham went on to strike him with the vehicle, drove over him before racing out of the car park. An ambulance was called for the victim, but he had a cardiac arrest. He also suffered severe blunt force trauma to the chest, head and stomach area. Mr. Anderson had multiple fractures to his pelvis and ribs, with one tearing into his lung. Cunningham went on to torch his Audi at a dirt track in Donny's farm in Greenock. He told an associate what happened at the car park, insisting Mr. Anderson and other men had been armed. Cunningham also pleaded guilty to the assault on Mr. Dowds and attempting to pervert the course of justice. Brian McConaughey, KC, defending, said, It does seem to be the situation that what started out as a relatively minor dispute has resulted in the death of a young man and another facing custody. The defence advocate added, any initial row did not involve either Cunningham or the victim, but others linked to them. Sentencing, Lady Drummond said, "You hit Mr. Anderson with your car, knocking him to the ground, and drove over him. You drove off at speed and then set fire to your car to try and cover up your actions. I have read statements from Mr. Anderson's mother and brother. She said her world fell apart into a million pieces." And that report was by Grant McCabe.
Glasgow Times News on Monday the 5th of December. Activists protest at Scottish Power in Glasgow over rising bills. An article written by Nicole Mitchell and Nina Lloyd. Campaigners have staged protest in buildings, including at the Scottish Power headquarters in Glasgow, against rising energy bills and skyrocketing levels of fuel poverty, according to organisers. Members of the grassroots movements Don't Pay UK and Fuel Poverty Action said campaigners had bedded down with blankets, sleeping bags and hot water bottles in the foyer of the Glasgow-based energy company at around 9 a.m. on Saturday. Another warm-up demonstration saw a group of activists enter the British Museum's Great Hall, the largest indoor public square in Europe, where they also protested against the museum's sponsorship links with oil giant BP, according to Don't Pay UK. Footage of the protest showed museum visitors watching in the background as a group of campaigners sat in a circle on the floor, and one thanked XR Rebels, Don't Pay UK, Fuel Poverty Action and Disability Action for highlighting this cost of living crisis. A third group was also expected to occupy the Westfield shopping centre in Stratford, East London. Warm-up protests involve occupying a location to run an unauthorised warm bank and bring attention to skyrocketing rates of fuel poverty, the group said. The group said the demonstrations were being held as part of the National Day of Action on Fuel Poverty. In Hastings, campaigners will enter a branch of Barclays due to the bank's investments in fossil fuels, which they say are exacerbating both energy prices and the climate crisis. Other warm-up protests will take place at a shopping centre in Manchester and in Liverpool, Brighton and Bristol. Neil Smith, a spokesperson for the Don't Pay campaign, said, "No one should go cold in winter, yet what we're seeing is a mass default on these extortionate energy bills and thousands set to freeze in their homes. While the government stands by, we're coming together in our communities to fight back and keep each other warm." Don't Pay has drawn attention in the past for encouraging people to cancel direct debits for their energy bills in response to the mass default already occurring amongst those who can't afford to heat their homes. The groups are demanding the government immediately tackles the energy and cost of living crisis by introducing Energy for All, defined as a universal free band of energy to cover people's necessities. This would be paid for by ending all public money subsidising fossil fuels, a more effective windfall tax on energy companies, and higher tariffs on luxury household energy use. Stuart Bretherton, Fuel Poverty Action campaign coordinator, said, "Energy for All would achieve what our energy system and economy should ultimately gear towards, ensuring everyone's basic needs are met. Ordinary people can't keep footing the bill for crises created by the wealthy. It's time for the big polluters and profiteers to pay their share. Through this, we could also incentivise much-needed climate action on home insulation and a transition to renewables." An article written by Nicole Mitchell and Nina Lloyd. Glasgow Times News on Monday the 5th of December. Concerts move to other venues while the Royal Concert Hall closes. An article written by Rebecca Newlands. A number of events have been moved to other Glasgow venues while a city concert hall closes for a major upgrade. The Glasgow Royal Concert Hall will close from February the 6th until March the 31st next year, while work is carried out on the venue. As we previously reported, the upgrades are part of a £2 million investment, which includes seat replacements and electrical upgrades to improve accessibility in the concert hall. Now, new venues have been confirmed for 5 of the Royal Concert Hall's planned concerts, including the highly anticipated John Williams at the Oscars by the Royal Scottish National Orchestra. Guests can expect favourites from Star Wars, Superman, E.T. the Extraterrestrial and Saving Private Ryan in the performance at the SEC Armadillo on Saturday, March the 25th. Pictures at an exhibition which was scheduled for Saturday, March the 4th, will now run on Sunday, March the 5th at 7:30 in the evening at Glasgow City Halls. Rachmaninoff's Symphonic Dances, which was scheduled for Saturday, March the 22nd, has moved to Sunday, March the 12th at 7:30 p.m. at Glasgow City Halls. Meanwhile, Tchaikovsky's Symphony No. 5, planned for Saturday, March the 18th, has moved to Sunday, March the 19th at 7:30 p.m. at Glasgow City Halls. A festival of Brahms, originally scheduled for Saturday, April the 1st, is now taking place on Sunday, April the 2nd at 7:30 in the evening at Glasgow City Halls. Current ticket holders have been contacted by the Royal Scottish National Orchestra and informed of the new venues and dates. Customers are asked to contact the Royal Concert Hall's box office with any ticketing queries. An article written by Rebecca Newlands. Glasgow Times News on Monday the 5th of December. Glasgow pensioner who helps the homeless had no heating for 2 years. An exclusive front page article written by Amanda Keenan. A kind-hearted pensioner who devotes her life to helping the homeless has told how the charity she volunteers for stepped in after finding out she spent 2 years without heating or hot water. Isabella Graham faithfully makes a late-night bus journey 4 times a week into Glasgow city centre to cook meals with Homeless Project Scotland for those living on the streets. However, no one knew the 72-year-old was herself struggling and was being forced to use a tiny electric heater to try and keep her home warm after her boiler broke and she was unable to afford a repair or replacement. The proud OAP was too ashamed to admit that her own home was freezing, but when her colleagues at the charity found out about her plight, they immediately stepped in to help. Isabella from Shawlands said, "My boiler was old and when it stopped working I didn't have the money to replace it or even fix it. I could only afford a small electric heater and it was so expensive to use. I'd wear layers of clothes and sit in front of the wee fan to just keep warm. The cost of using it meant I was burning through my pension every week, but I didn't want anyone to know how bad things were. I'd boil kettles of water and fill up some of the bath just to get a heat in me. The summer months were bearable, but the winter was awful. My windows are old and my home was freezing. I suppose after a while I got used to it and just tried to get on with things." After hearing about Isabella's problems, staff at Homeless Project Scotland stepped in. The charity, which runs a food kitchen, an outreach support arm, and supplies more than 130,000 meals to the homeless and vulnerable each year, found 2 generous companies who wanted to help the selfless pensioner for free. Jason Cowan, who runs Notorious Plumbing Glasgow, supplied and fitted a new £5,000 boiler for free, while Scott Smith from Clyde-Built Home Improvements is now supplying and installing new windows for no cost at Isabella's flat. Jason and Scott both say they're only too happy to get their tradesman on the job after learning about the awful conditions she was living in. Jason said, "I knew I had to help when I heard Isabella had gone without heating or hot water for 2 years. No one should have to live like that, and it was my way of giving something back to a wonderful lady who does so much for others." Scott added, "Isabella deserves the comfort and dignity of a cosy home. The new windows are being installed this week. It's our pleasure to help such a fantastic lady completely free of charge." Chair of Homeless Project Scotland, Colin McInnes, told the Glasgow Times the charity was desperate to help Isabella. The team is also looking for anyone who would be willing to decorate and carpet her home free of charge. Colin said, "As soon as we realised she had no heating or hot water, we knew we had to step in. Isabella is a proud lady. We call her the granny of our unit. She's here faithfully 4 nights every week, no matter the weather, dishing out hot meals to those in need. She's such a fantastic lady and always puts others ahead of herself. So we were over the moon when the two companies generously offered to help her and waived their fees. Isabella just couldn't believe it, and we can't thank the firms enough. They've changed her life for the better. She travels by bus at night to help us out and never complains. She's one of the most kind-hearted and compassionate people I've ever met. We're fortunate to have her volunteer with us, and her vegetable curry and special recipe meatballs are an absolutely different class. Isabella has volunteered with the charity for the last 3 years and has no plans to stop anytime soon. She believes more should be done to tackle homelessness and admits some of the stories she hears are utterly heartbreaking. The pensioner added, "I just can't believe the generosity that's been shown to me. I'm so touched by everything, and now I'll have a warm, comfortable home for winter. I just can't say a big enough thank you to the charity or the two companies. I could never have afforded the repairs my home needed and was stuck in a horrible situation. I'm just so overwhelmed by the kindness. They've gone above and beyond to help me. Over the years you get to know people and they start to confide in you. Trust me, nobody wants to willingly be living on the streets, and some of the stories I've heard would break your heart. Helping to feed those in need is the least I can do, and to be honest, it's given me a purpose. I like knowing I'm doing a wee something to help someone who really needs it get a hot meal, especially during the winter when it's so bitter out there. It's appalling that in 2022 people are still without accommodation. Our queues are getting bigger every single year, and this is something that needs to be addressed as a priority by our politicians. Just £5 a month can help Homeless Project Scotland continue to offer hot meals, support, hygiene packs and advice to those in need. An exclusive front page article written by Amanda Keenan. Glasgow Times News on Monday the 5th of December. Libraries and leisure centres to be used as warm spaces for the winter. An article written by Rebecca Newlands. Libraries and leisure centres are being transformed into community warm spaces this winter. East Renfrewshire Culture and Leisure is encouraging locals to visit one of the area's 10 libraries to enjoy festive sing-alongs, children and family activities, knitting, folk music and more. People can also use the free Wi-Fi and computers and, of course, find a good book and curl up in a cosy nook. Anthony McGreevy from East Renfrewshire Culture and Leisure said, "This winter we're waiting to welcome people along to our libraries. We've lined up a range of activities for all ages to enjoy for free, and we encourage residents to come along and take part. You can, as always, discover the latest books on offer too, or access a quiet space in one of our leisure centres. The leisure centres taking part are Barhead Foundry, Eastwood Park and Neilston Leisure. They'll also offer warm welcome spaces for the public to access during opening hours. It comes as the local community is offering help and support to people during the cost of living crisis, especially as the colder months make things harder for so many families. The spaces are open to residents who would like advice, to participate in activities, or simply to spend time in a warm place." Ruth Gallagher, Chief Officer of Voluntary Action East Renfrewshire, added, "Thanks to the amazing collaboration across our third, public and independent sector partners, we've been able to gather initial information that begins to map out the spaces and places already used by our communities. Spaces where we come together to socialise, learn new skills, participate in hobby activities and access support services. Everyone may need a little bit of extra support at some point in their lives, so whatever your circumstances, it's okay to ask for help. An online directory can be found on the Community Hub website, including information on the spaces and support or activities available." An article written by Rebecca Newlands. Glasgow Times on Monday the 5th of December. Lifestyle. Are air fryers cheaper to run than ovens? Which says yes? An article written by Rebecca Carey. Air fryers have become the latest kitchen craze, but are they really cheaper to run than ovens? Households have been looking for creative ways to offset the soaring cost of living, with demand for the handy appliance leaping by 3,000%. The consumer group Which has released new research which states that the gadget can actually cost 3 times less to run than a traditional oven. Air fryer ovens are small, more energy and time efficient than full-time ovens, and since you can fry, grill, roast and bake, you can also cut out the need for your stove. Ideal for people trying to consume fewer calories, air fryers simulate deep frying without submerging food in oil. A fan within the air fryer circulates hot air at high speed, creating the ultimate crispy textures and preserving many good nutrients. Air fryers join microwaves, pressure cookers and slow cookers, which are all reported to have cheaper running costs than conventional ovens, according to the new analysis. Which has said that any saving from the appliance needs to be weighed against the initial cost, and for an air fryer that could be up to £300. The brand, which promotes informed consumer choice, put its testers on the case to decipher what the cheapest and quickest method of cooking a roast chicken was. The testers reported that a pressure cooker was the most effective method and cost 11p and took 32 minutes, compared with 39p and 76 minutes in an oven. However, the pressure cooker didn't produce the ideal crispy skin that regular roasting did. Although the air fryer was not the cheapest option, the testers found that it would only cost 18p to cook a perfect roast chicken. Meanwhile, the air fryer was the cheapest for cooking chips, 10p for 2 portions, in comparison to 29p in the oven. It was also cheaper to use an air fryer to bake a cake, at just 8p. Baking in a traditional oven cost 24p in comparison. The induction hob and pressure cooker were the cheapest for cooking soup at 9p. In contrast, the microwave was the cheapest method for steaming vegetables and jacket potatoes. Emily Seymour, Which energy editor, said, "Energy bills are a real concern for millions of households across the country, especially when many are already feeling the pressures of the cost of living crisis, and cooking is one of the everyday costs that really mount up over time." There's been a surge of interest in air fryers and smaller cooking appliances in recent months, and our research shows that the hype could be justified in some cases, as we found these products cost less to cook certain foods than conventional ovens. The cost savings will soon be lost if you have to cook more than one batch though, so it's still better to use your oven if you're cooking large quantities. But for quick, small meals, we've found that it's worth trying out the alternatives. An article written by Rebecca Carey. Glasgow Times on Monday the 5th of December. Opinion. Shopping local is essential to help small businesses. The Tory View, a column written by Thomas Kerr. This Saturday saw the annual Small Business Saturday event take place. It's become a firm fixture in the calendar and is a wonderful way for everyone across the United Kingdom to remember the enormous contribution our small businesses make to our local high streets, including in Glasgow. However, there was a real sense that this year's event was even more important for our small businesses. As we all continue to grapple with the cost of living crisis, our famous shopping hubs in Glasgow and our high streets are under even more threat. With soaring costs, including rising energy bills, it's small retailers who are struggling to make ends meet, no matter how hard they continue to adapt. Can you imagine a Shettleston Road or Shawlands Cross without local butchers and bakers? A Byres Road or Bridgeton Cross without independent hairdressers? That's an ever-growing concern facing our communities in Glasgow if we don't do our bit, no matter how hard it is, and shop local. I know it might not be much, but I was proud to show support for local businesses on Saturday, and I do my very best to support local shops, cafes and other small businesses in Shettleston and Glasgow all year round. There's a wider issue facing us in terms of what our retail experience might look like soon if we don't act. The very survival of our high streets is at risk. Just look at our city centre or even shopping centres in the town. They're nowhere near as busy as they used to be in the run-up to Christmas. The rise in online shopping has dramatically changed our habits and is having a serious impact on our economy. It's why I believe that we do need to look at further measures to encourage people away from online sites and back onto our high streets, and that should include looking at measures in relation to tax. That's why over the next few weeks in the run-up to Christmas, I urge you all to shop local as much as you possibly can. Local shops and the people that own them and work in them are the backbone of our communities. They employ thousands of local people, encourage entrepreneurial spirit and bring people together. For me, there are few things more Christmassy than being stressed out in a line waiting to buy a present, surrounded by others doing the same. We must shop local, shop often and back our small businesses, otherwise we risk losing them for good. A column written by Thomas Kerr. Glasgow Times News on Monday the 5th of December. Record numbers flock to Winter Arts and Craft Market in city centre venue. An article written by Stuart Patterson. Thousands of people turned up to shop at a winter market in one of Glasgow's famous old buildings. The Brigade was the venue for the Wasps Winter Market over the weekend, where local arts and crafts makers were showing their creations for sale. Last year, the event attracted 2,000 people over the weekend, but on day one this year alone, it surpassed that total, with 2,200 people passing through the doors, and after yesterday's success, the total number of visitors to the event was 3,500 people. There were 90 stalls in the market with locally crafted ceramics, jewellery, textiles, greetings cards and original art for sale. Wasps, which provides studio space for artists and craft makers, has been running summer and winter markets for the past 5 years in Glasgow. Many of the sellers are based in the Brigade Centre, which has been transformed into a creative centre for Glasgow. Local Brigade-based sellers at the market, including Garter, Alan Campbell Art, Jane Martin Glass, cartoonist Frank Boyle and jewellery maker Morna Darling. Others came from outside the city to offer their work, some of which were Velvet Rose Designs, Eve Cogburn Jewellery, Artist's Tuck Shop and Spicy Chameleon. Daniel Pollitt, WASP spokesperson, said, "The appetite for these events is definitely growing, with more people wanting to support local businesses, buy something unique and provide counterbalance to the mass market Black Friday commercialism. We're delighted to welcome so many new faces to our market and to be supporting Scotland's independent and very talented makers and creators." Wasps will be inviting applications for its summer market at the Brigade next spring. An article written by Stuart Patterson. Glasgow Times News on Monday the 5th of December. Stockingfield Bridge officially opens in Glasgow. An article written by Rebecca Newlands. The communities of North Glasgow came together for the official opening of a brand new £14 million bridge. Stockingfield Bridge was officially unveiled to the public on Saturday with a spectacular light spectacle which saw the bridge's spire light up the city's sky. The bridge, built over the Forth and Clyde Canal, opened earlier this month and marks the first time Ruckhill, Maryhill and Gilsoch Hill will be connected since 1790. Scottish Canal's CEO Richard Miller said, 14 years after we first developed the concept with the local community, we were delighted to be able to open this amazing new bridge to the public. We're excited to bring these communities together and celebrate what promises to be another historic moment in the history of Scottish canals. A procession led by Glasgow-based art group Carnival Arts made its way onto the bridge from 4 separate meeting points. Adding to the display, lights were fitted to standard and non-standard bikes, as well as paddleboards. Keeping the crowd entertained throughout the evening was music, a light show, fire and aerial performers. Julie Murray, director of Carnival Arts, said, "We're delighted to join with Scottish Canals to help shine a light on Stockingfield Bridge." The opening was welcomed by Active Travel Minister Patrick Harvey, who called it a landmark moment for North Glasgow communities, as well as making it easier for people to walk, wheel and cycle. He added, "For most, it makes it easier to get around their community for those shorter day-to-day journeys, but it's also really significant that we now have an uninterrupted active travel route from Bowling all the way to Edinburgh for people to enjoy. The Scottish Government has provided over £13 million to deliver the project here at Stockingfield, and I'm enthusiastic about similar transformation in communities across the country. That's why the Scottish Government has now committed to investing at least £320 million, or 10% of the total transport budget, on active travel by 2024 to 2025. Through this record investment, we'll help build a more active nation where more people enjoy greater opportunities to walk, wheel and cycle for everyday journeys. Following this, 9 sculptures are being installed on site. Designs include a 121-metre mythical serpent called a Beithir in Gaelic folklore and interpretation boards exploring the area's past and present. An article written by Rebecca Newlands. Glasgow Times News on Monday the 5th of December. Violent robber caught after victim tackled him. An article written by Grant McCabe. A serial criminal who helped tie up and rob 2 terrified teenagers in their home has been jailed for 4.5 years. Robert Anderson, who's 65, teamed up with an accomplice to raid the house in Baillieston days before Christmas last year. A 16-year-old girl and her 13-year-old brother were at home while their parents were at work. The children were told, "I will kill your family. Your mum and dad are tied up at the shop." The girl had been on a FaceTime call before the intruders burst in, and her friend overheard what was happening and got help. Mr. Anderson was sentenced at the High Court in Glasgow, having earlier admitted to a charge of assault and robbery. He already had a lengthy criminal record for similar offences, as well as for firearms and crimes of dishonesty. Mr. Anderson was locked up for 6 years in 2013 for a string of robberies on elderly victims after he impersonated a police officer. Lord Scott paid tribute to the 16-year-old girl in the latest offence for bravely tackling Mr. Anderson that day. The judge said, "The threats made to the children about their parents, even if untrue, must have made an already terrifying experience all the more horrific. They would have thought they were trapped with violent raiders and there being no hope of intervention. It's no credit to you at all that while her brother was still tied up, the girl displayed a remarkable display of fortitude to free herself and strike you with a stick." Mr. Anderson, latterly of Lark Hall, will be supervised for a further 3 years on his release. An earlier hearing was told how a masked Anderson and an unknown male accomplice, both wearing gloves, barged into the house and locked the door last December the 18th. The pair stated, "Where's the safe? Where's the money? Don't move. Sit down or else." The second man grabbed a pair of scissors and threatened to kill the children and their family. The young victims were dragged into the living room and had their arms and legs bound with wire, Christmas tree lights and a school tie. The teenagers stated there was no safe, but handed over £65 of their own cash in a bid to get them to leave. But the robbers still ransacked the property looking for more loot. Prosecutor Lee Laurie said, unknown to the men, the girl's friend remained on the video call and heard the threats being made. He alerted his father and mother, who also overheard what was happening. They contacted the police, as well as the victims' parents. The friend's parents raced to the house and could hear the victims yelling for help. Miss Laurie added, the girl shouted that the men were going out of the back door, and at this point she was able to free herself. She picked up a wooden stick and hit Mr. Anderson over the head. The thugs escaped before police arrived. They stole jewellery as well as cash. But Mr. Anderson was soon traced near the scene and arrested. The whereabouts of his accomplice is still unknown. An article written by Grant McCabe.
From the Glasgow Times of Tuesday the 6th of December 2022, from the opinion section, Martha Wardrop, let's increase support for tree planting projects. It is recognised that our trees provide huge benefits for both people and nature. For Glaswegians, trees are the lungs of our city. They provide the much-needed habitat for our wildlife. Native woodlands and trees are one of the best ways to address the climate crisis. They are our protectors against flooding. Trees are vital to so many aspects of our life. During National Tree Week, November the 26th to December the 4th, we are encouraged to celebrate the importance of trees for our well-being and the sustainability of the planet. You could take 15 minutes for a break outside and see what you notice without the distraction of your phone. Look out for nature. Making a rainbow of leaves in different colours when you are outside, leaving it for someone to enjoy, or string up as a home decoration can be a fun activity. By spending time observing life in trees and hedgerows, you can watch birds, appreciate the different leaves and bark, as well as mini beasts including spiders, snails, slugs and beetles. Spending time in nature can support your health. Sharing time with someone on a visit to the local park or green space and discussing your favourite trees can be uplifting. You could download the Woodland Trust's British Trees ID app or borrow a book about trees from your local library to learn more about trees in your community. This is the start of the winter planting season for trees. The best time for planting is between November and March. It is recommended that trees are planted when they are dormant and therefore less likely to be damaged. Over the winter months, there are opportunities to get involved in tree planting projects across Glasgow. Free orchard, tree and hedgerow packs are available for local schools to support learning to plant and care for nature. There is a history of tree planting activities across Glasgow to provide or enhance nesting, feeding and roosting sites for birds, bees, bats and insects. To create habitats and effectively capture carbon through tree planting, we have to support a variety of native tree species, looking after these trees in the long term, whilst protecting and restoring existing woodlands. Commemorative trees have also provided a way to support nature restoration, as well as remember a loved one with a tree planted in their name. This is a special tribute that can live on for generations to come. The planting of an oak tree in Kelvin Way commemorated the passing of the Representation of the People Act 1918, which gave some women the right to vote. It is recognised that the presence of significant women from all sides of the suffrage movement, both militant and constitutional, aimed to unite and celebrate the legacy of all women who fought for the vote. This tree continues to inspire women campaigning for equal citizenship, women's welfare and housing rights. In the days ahead, we have to increase our support for tree planting projects and continue to appreciate the importance of trees in our local community and the life of the city. This article was by Martha Wardrop from the Glasgow Times of Tuesday the 6th of December 2022, from the opinion section. Thomas Kerr: we must shop local or we lose businesses for good. This Saturday saw the annual Small Business Saturday event take place. It has become a firm fixture in the calendar and is a wonderful way for everyone across the United Kingdom to remember the enormous contribution our small businesses make to our local high streets, including in Glasgow. However, there was a real sense that this year's event was even more important for our small businesses. As we all continue to grapple with the cost of living crisis, our famous shopping hubs in Glasgow and our high streets are under even more threat. With soaring costs, including rising energy bills, it is small retailers who are struggling to make ends meet, no matter how hard they continue to adapt. Can you imagine a Shettleston Road or Shawlands Cross without local butchers and bakers? A Byres Road or Bridgeton Cross without independent hairdressers? That is an ever-growing concern facing our communities in Glasgow if we do not do our bit, no matter how hard it is, to shop local. I know it might not be much, but I was proud to show support for local businesses on Saturday, and I do my very best to support local shops, cafes and other small businesses in Shettleston and Glasgow all year round. There is a wider issue facing us in terms of what our retail experience might look like soon if we do not act. The very survival of our high streets is at risk. Just look at our city centre or even shopping centres in the town. They are nowhere near as busy as they used to be in the run-up to Christmas. The rise in online shopping has dramatically changed our habits and is having a serious impact on our economy. It is why I believe that we do need to look at further measures to encourage people away from online sites and back into our high streets, and that should include looking at measures in relation to tax. That is why over the next few weeks in the run-up to Christmas, I urge you all to shop local as much as you possibly can. Local shops and the people that own them and work in them are the backbone of our communities. They employ thousands of local people, encourage entrepreneurial spirit, and bring people together. For me, there are few things more Christmassy than being stressed out in a line waiting to buy a present, surrounded by others doing the same. We must shop local, shop often and back our small businesses. Otherwise, we risk losing them for good. This article was by Thomas Kerr.
From Glasgow Evening Times. Wednesday the 7th of December 2022. From the news section. Council issue warning after Paul Black's rant about Queen's Park Pond. By Lauren Brownlie. Glasgow City Council has warned members of the public not to skate on frozen ponds this winter. The news comes after comedian Paul Black took to social media to rant about skaters who descended upon Queen's Park in previous years. Today the local authority quote tweeted the comedian's clip and wrote, "As much as it's tempting, do not skate, attempt to cross, walk or play in ponds or any frozen bodies of water. No matter how solid it might look, you have no idea how unstable it actually is with extremely cold weather forecast. Please stay safe and stay off the ice." We told last year how a boy aged 12 fell into water after the ice cracked on January 5th. Police has cleared everyone else off after being called to the scene. Figure skater and ice hockey enthusiasts had spent hours on the ice in the previous days. And that article was by Lauren Brownlie. From Glasgow Evening Times, Wednesday the 7th of December 2022, from the news section. EasyJet launches new flight route from Glasgow to Porto. By Nicola Mitchell. EasyJet is launching a new summer route from Glasgow Airport next year. Flights to Porto in Portugal are scheduled to start Friday, March 31st, with twice weekly departures on Mondays and Fridays. The airline also announced it will be starting flights from Edinburgh Airport to Catania Airport in Sicily from Friday, June 2nd, which will also operate twice a week on Mondays and Fridays throughout the summer season. The new routes will provide customers in Scotland with more choices when planning a getaway. The airline will be putting this autumn 2023 schedule on sale on Thursday, December 8th, meaning seats on tens of thousands of flights between October 1st and November 30th, 2023 will be available to snap up early at low fares across the entire EasyJet network. Ali Gayward, EasyJet's UK country manager, said, "I am delighted to be announcing new routes from both Edinburgh and Glasgow today, providing our Scottish customers with more direct links to more of Europe's most popular city and beach destinations next summer. And with flights for autumn 2023 on sale tomorrow, customers can also book early for next autumn and snap up the best fares across our network to find a great value getaway or October half-term holiday. We know that holidays are important to people. Not only does travelling connect friends and family, but also offers a wealth of benefits from promoting well-being to experiencing new cultures. The results of our survey just go to show what a priority it is for people with so many determined to protect their holidays. With our low fares and unrivaled European network, EasyJet is ideally placed to offer fantastic value and great quality holiday that people don't have to compromise on. It's fantastic to see so many consumers plan to travel next year already, and we look forward to welcoming them on board. Matt Hazelwood, Chief Commercial Officer at AGS Airport Limited, which owns Glasgow Airport, said, "We are very excited by the news that EasyJet will launch their summer route to Porto, particularly given it is a brand new destination for Glasgow Airport. The introduction of the twice-weekly service from 31st of March will be welcome news for Scottish leisure travellers looking to visit and explore one of Portugal's most historic coastal cities." Kate Sherry, Aviation Director at Edinburgh Airport, said, "Italy continues to be the country that people wish to explore and sample some of the finest food that Europe has to offer, and adding a destination like Catania offers that and much more. From amazing views and the mix of history, culture, modern Italy, it's a city that quite rightly appears on many wish lists, and we're happy to see EasyJet expand its offering at Edinburgh Airport." And that article was by Nicole Mitchell. From Glasgow Evening Times. Wednesday the 7th of December 2022. From the news section. Kanye West told Scotland is the most woke country in the world. By Ross Hunter. A far-right political commentator has called Scotland the most woke country in the world during an interview with Kanye West. Gavin McAins, a Canadian podcaster and founder of the far-right group The Proud Boys, was interviewing Kanye West, world-famous rapper, who now goes by the name E, on his program when he made the comments. During the discussion about an anti-Semitic conspiracy theory, which McAins calls ethnomasochism, he uses Scotland as an example of why it is a genetic trait of white people to loathe their own race, reports The National. He said, "My argument is that the trait you're talking about, I call it ethnomasochism, where you just hate yourself, is a genetic white thing, and I think it's wrong to blame it on the Jews. Jews are overrepresented in it because they have high IQs. Now, here's one piece of proof. Scotland. Scotland is the most woke country in the world. It hates itself. They have an open border policies for refugees, the most PC judges, and most woke DAs. It's like Berkeley and Portland times 1,000. That's not a Jew thing. That was whites wanting to sabotage themselves." In response to comments made by Ye about how Jews were great inventors, McAins also said, "I don't think Jews are that well known for inventing. That tends to be more of a Scottish thing." McAins helped co-found Vice magazine in 1994. However, after leaving the organisation in 2008, he has become known for his increasingly far-right views. In 2016, he founded the far-right Proud Boys group, a neo-fascist men's rights organisation known for its vociferous support of Donald Trump. Earlier this year, 5 leaders of the group were indicted by the US government on sedition conspiracy charges for their alleged roles in the January 6th attack on the Capitol. The Proud Boys have previously been condemned for donning kilts during far-right rallies. And that article was by Ross Hunter.
And that was this week's Glasgow Times News podcast, normally recorded in our studio at the Bishopbriggs Media Centre, currently recorded from our volunteers' homes with the publisher's kind permission. Thanks for listening.